The reason some people can sell anything and captivate any room isn't just charisma. It's a deliberate psychological framework. We'll show you the three-part presentation secret used by Steve Jobs to make his products and his ideas irresistible.
Now, what you're about to learn has nothing to do with becoming a better public speaker. It's not about personality, it's not about charm, it's about a system, a repeatable framework we call the Jobs effect. And here's the core of it, the big paradox. To have the most influence, you have to practice aggressive simplification. It's not about adding more data or more slides, no. It's about surgically removing everything that isn't absolutely essential, so that one single powerful idea can shine through with blinding clarity.
All right, so to get you there, we've broken this down into a 6-part masterclass. First up, we'll tackle the influence paradox. Then we'll diagnose the big problem, cognitive overload. After that, we'll get into the solution with the 3-pillar framework and the psychology behind why it works. Then, the best part, your 3-step protocol to put it all into action. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with the final takeaway.
All right, let's dive into section 1, the influence paradox. You see, most of us have it completely backwards. We think that to persuade someone, we have to bury them in data, right? Show them all the research, every little feature. We figure the sheer weight of all that information has to be convincing. But here's the kicker, that's not just wrong, it's scientifically guaranteed to backfire.
And pay close attention to the language we're using here. The goal? That's easy. Maximum influence. But the method? Aggressive simplification. This isn't just a little spring cleaning. No, this is a ruthless, strategic act of removal. It's about having the guts to throw out perfectly good ideas just to make space for that one great idea. You know, it's kind of like a sculptor. They don't add more stuff to the marble. They take a hammer and chisel and they violently chip away everything that isn't the statue. That's you. Your core message is that masterpiece, and it's buried under all the noise. Your job is to find it and cut away everything else.
Okay, moving on to section 2. Now we're going to get a bit more diagnostic. We're going to pinpoint the exact reason why so many presentations, pitches, you name it, just fall flat. Because there's an invisible enemy in the room every single time you speak, and it has a name: cognitive overload. So what you're seeing here is basically the battle for your audience's brain. On the left, that's the typical approach, right? The data dump presentation. Oh man, we've all been there. The slide pops up, it's just a wall of text, maybe a crazy chart, and what happens instantly? Your brain checks out. It starts to drift because you're trying to read, listen, and think all at the same time. It totally overloads your working memory. Think of it like your brain's RAM. And your brain's defense mechanism is to just start filtering out, well, everything. Now look at the right. That's the Jobs effect. It works differently. It hooks you emotionally first, simplifies everything down to one idea, and just like that, it bypasses all those mental filters. The message doesn't just get heard, it actually lands.
And this isn't just some theory. Cognitive overload is a real, predictable, biological response. It's crucial to get this. It's not your audience's fault. They aren't dumb, they aren't unfocused. Their brains are just doing exactly what they evolved to do, which is to conserve energy. And when you hit them with a fire hose of disorganized info, the brain's go-to survival move is to just shut down. So when you cause cognitive overload, you are literally forcing your audience to ignore you. You're the one building the wall between you and them. But wait, there's another huge mistake people make. Let's say your info is perfectly organized. If it's all just facts and figures, you're still only talking to one part of the brain, the logical part. You're completely missing the limbic system, and you cannot ignore the limbic system. This is the ancient, powerful core of our brain. It's where emotions, motivation, memory, it's all handled there. It is the real CEO of the brain. So if you don't get the limbic system on board, your idea might make sense, sure, but it won't be felt, it won't be remembered, and it definitely won't be acted on.
Okay, so that's the diagnosis: cognitive overload and a total failure to connect emotionally. So let's get into section 3, where we actually build the solution. We're done with the what's wrong, now it's all about the how to fix it. This is the core system, the engine that drives persuasion.
And the whole framework rests on 3 incredibly powerful pillars that all work together. First, you've got the single theme principle. That's your weapon against all that confusion. Second is the narrative sequence. This is your key to unlocking that emotional brain we just talked about. And third, the visual dominance rule. This is how you make your message so easy to absorb, it's almost effortless. And trust me, when these 3 are firing on all cylinders, the results are, well, profound.
All right, let's dig into that first pillar, the single theme principle. Honestly, this is the most important one, and it's also the hardest. Your entire mission is to take everything you want to say, all that research, all that passion, and boil it down into one single unforgettable sentence. You have to ask yourself, what is the one thing they absolutely must walk away with? Think about the very first iPod. The single theme wasn't a portable music player with a 5 GB hard drive. No way. It was 1,000 songs in your pocket. See the difference? That's a single theme. It's crystal clear, it's powerful, and it saves your audience's brain power for what really matters.
Next up, Pillar 2, the narrative sequence. This is where you stop listing facts and start taking people on an emotional journey. You structure your content like a story, and every great story has what we call a setup and a punchline. The setup is where you introduce the problem, you raise the stakes, you create a villain. This builds up tension. And only after you've built that tension do you deliver the punchline. That's your idea, your product. It's the hero that swoops in and saves the day. That structure, that's what grabs the limbic system and doesn't let go.
And finally, Pillar 3, the visual dominance rule. This one is huge. It means you stop designing slides for you to read and start designing them like a billboard for your audience. The rule is dead simple. Shift the heavy lifting from reading to seeing. I mean, your brain processes images something like 60,000 times faster than text. So instead of a slide packed with bullet points, you show one powerful image, or one giant number, or a single word. This lets the audience absorb your point instantly, without even trying, which frees up all their mental energy to actually listen to you and your story.
Okay, on to section 4. So we've got the 3 pillars, but why do they work so damn well? Now we're going to shift from the what to the why. We're going to look at the brain science that makes this whole framework feel less like a presentation technique and more like a cheat code for communication.
First up, limbic engagement. Remember the narrative sequence we talked about? Well, this is why it's so powerful. Storytelling isn't just fluffy stuff. It's a biological requirement for memory. Our brains are not wired to remember lists of facts. They are wired, from an evolutionary standpoint, to remember stories. Stories of survival, of struggle, of victory. So when you frame your message as a story, you're literally tapping into the brain's oldest, most powerful operating system for deciding what's important enough to remember. You've heard it before. Facts tell, but stories sell. And more importantly, they stick.
The second piece of the puzzle is cognitive load reduction. This is just as critical. The single theme and the visual dominance rules are your 1-2 punch for managing your audience's brain power. By giving them just one clear idea and super simple visuals, you free up their prefrontal cortex. That's the thinking part of the brain. You basically stop making them work so hard just to follow along. And when they're not burning all their energy just trying to process what you're saying, they can use that leftover energy to actually understand you, to consider your point, and to agree with you.
And this leads to a really cool psychological hack called the Zeigarnik effect. It's this weird tendency our brains have where we remember unfinished things way better than finished things. Why? Because our brains absolutely hate open loops. They crave closure. So that setup and punchline story structure we talked about, it's deliberately creating one of those open loops, a kind of psychological gap. You introduce a big, painful problem, and it creates this tension in the audience's mind. They get invested. They need to know the answer. And that need for closure is what locks in their attention, making your punchline, your solution, feel so much more valuable and urgent when you finally deliver it.
All right, that brings us to section 5. We've gone through the theory, we've gone through the psychology. Now it's time to get our hands dirty. Let's make this super practical. This is your playbook, your step-by-step guide for implementing the jobs effect starting today.
And the protocol couldn't be simpler because it follows the framework perfectly. Step 1, define your single theme. Step 2, build that emotional arc. And step 3, apply the visual rule. No more theory. These are your marching orders. And I want to give you a couple of hard and fast rules for 2 of them that will make all the difference.
So, when you're building that emotional arc, here's the rule. A full 60%, more than half of your presentation should be spent just on the problem, just setting up the pain. Now, I know this feels completely backwards. Our natural instinct is to jump right to our amazing solution. But you have to fight that urge. You have to make the audience feel the problem first. Define it. Twist the knife a little. Raise the stakes until they are practically begging you for the answer, because only then will your solution feel like the game changer it is.
And for that visual rule, here's your non-negotiable limit. 10 words. That's it. 10 words maximum on any given slide. This one simple rule will change everything. It forces you to stop using your slides as a crutch, as a teleprompter. It forces you to find the absolute core of your idea and let your story, your voice, be the star of the show. And that is exactly where the focus belongs.
And here we are at our final section. We've covered a ton of ground, from the big paradox to the nitty-gritty protocol. But if you walk away with just one single idea today, I want it to be this. This is it. This is the lesson that changes the whole game. Persuasion is not an intellectual exercise. It's an emotional and structural experience. Your job isn't to be a human fire hose, spraying information at people. Your job is to be an architect, to build an experience for your audience, an experience engineered for clarity, for emotion, and for memory. So stop trying to win arguments with data dumps. Start captivating rooms by telling clear, powerful, emotional stories. So here's your challenge. For your very next communication, doesn't matter if it's a big presentation or just an important email, stop and define your single theme. Boil everything down to that one single, unforgettable sentence. That's your first step. So let's recap what we've learned. The Jobs effect solves the problem of cognitive overload and fragmented attention. And why this matters is that it provides a systematic way to make any idea irresistible. The single theme principle and the narrative framework, they work because they engage the brain's emotional limbic system and conserve your audience's precious mental energy. Remember, productivity isn't about doing more, it's about mastering systems that make focus effortless.